I can't believe it's already here. Yesterday, I had a chance to check out the first 2 episodes of Marvel's Disney Plus TV show, Hawkeye. Just came out, and I want to talk about it. All right, welcome to the DL Jones Show. I'm your host, DL Jones. This is my Hawkeye episode. I just watched the first 2 episodes. I'm going to be talking about those 2 episodes. I'm not going to be doing full-on spoilers. It's just going to be a minor spoiler. Minor spoilers. I'm going to try to keep it pretty much spoiler-free, but no promises. If you have been keeping up with all of the new Disney Plus shows that's been coming out in the past year, maybe little over the past year. I think they started back in 2020. I've done a couple of recaps and reviews, and if you want to check those out, I would say if you haven't watched Hawkeye yet, you might want to go back and check out those shows first. And I've done like reviews and recaps on all of those shows, but yeah, go check those out. I'll link those up in the description below if you want to check out my videos on those different shows where I did recaps and reviews and episode by episode breakdowns and stuff like that. It's a lot of content there if you want to go check those out. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes so far. Some of it, I watched them both back to back, so my recap may kind of blend into each other because I can't quite remember where one episode ended and one began and the next one began, but I'm just going to go over what happened in both of them. And tell you what I think about the episode. All right, first I'll tell you, Hawkeye is not one of my favorite characters. I can't say I dislike the character. I just figured that he was kind of boring, you know. I always felt like that they can do more with the character. You know, they kind of play him as like the person that's the least capable out of everyone. And they need to give him some kind of strength that is very important that makes him more important. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so the series starts off pretty interesting. It starts off kind of like a flashback, and you see a young Kate Bishop. At the time, you don't know who he is. If you're familiar with the comics and what's going on, you know who Kate Bishop is. But if not, you know, this is kind of her introduction. She's just a little girl. She's in like a high-rise apartment, and it starts off like right in the middle of the events of the first Avengers movie when all of those alien creatures are attacking the city, and so half of the building gets blown up, and Kate Bishop is there with her mother. Her father gets killed in this, and that's where she sees Hawkeye. You know, they have this scene from the first Avengers movie where Hawkeye is standing on the edge of the building, and he's just taking down all of these different flying aliens and stuff with his arrows and stuff, and that's where she sees him, you know. And one of the aliens was flying directly towards her, and he took that one down before it got to her, and you know, that's where she sees him. And then at that point is when she was like, that's her favorite Avenger. You can tell right at that point that was her favorite Avenger. And then as the beginning part of this series goes on, she kind of like models her life after him. You know, she learns all of these different types of martial arts. She asks for a bow and arrow, and she becomes like a state champion archer, you know, and she just learns all of these different skills. It seems like she wants to be how she envisioned Hawkeye to be, you know. And then it jumps, you know, right after that beginning part, it jumps a couple of years, and she's like, I want to say she's 20 or something like that. She's an adult, or just about an adult. Maybe she's 18. I don't know. You know, her and her mother is dating this new guy and invites her to this thing. She doesn't want to go, and she goes there, and then that's when we first meet the villain which I think is the villain of the series. It is the Tracksuit Mafia. It's like she goes there, she's trying to like spy on her mother. While she's doing that, she finds like an underground auction where they are auctioning off items and memorabilia that is kind of like black market type stuff. In that memorabilia is where Ronan's sword and Ronan's outfit is somehow they got a hold of it, and that's being held up for auction. But right before any of that stuff gets sold, the Tracksuit Mafia comes in. You know, they're looking for something. They're looking for, I think, a watch. You know, they're looking for a watch. They comes in, they blow up the side of the wall, and they go in, and they're trying to, you know, rob the auction and everything. And at the time, Kate Bishop, she kind of looks, you know, she's hiding because she don't want her mother's fiance to know that she's down there spying on them. So she had kind of been hiding anyway. So what she ended up doing is she ended up putting on a Ronin outfit, trying to keep from being able, you know, from people knowing that she was down there and what she saw. So she put on the Ronin outfit and starts fighting the Tracksuit Mafia. And you could tell she's new. She got all of these skills, but you could tell she's never actually done this before, you know, other than probably her learning the stuff. So she's fighting the Tracksuit tracksuit mafia. At the time, you don't know what they are, but they all got on these tracksuits and they all wearing like ski masks and stuff like that. So she's fighting them and she's kind of holding her own with them. And she gets to a point where she, escapes and she runs away and everything. And they eventually, they think that she's Ronin because she has on the Ronin outfit, So they eventually track her down to her apartment. She don't realize that they are tracking her. They track her down to her apartment and they get it all on the news with her in the outfit and everything. And then we come to Clint Barton, Hawkeye. He's in New York. The first time you see him, he's at a play. It's from all of the trailers that we see where he's there with his kids and they're watching like the Rogers play. I guess they're on Broadway or somewhere. And it's like a play, a musical that's based on the events of some type of things that happens with the Avengers. I guess it's Thanos or something. But he's watching that, he really doesn't like it. So him and his kids and stuff, they decide to leave early and they go out and have something to eat and everything. But anyway, while they're back at home, he sees the news and he sees somebody on the news with his Ronin outfit on, which at this time, everybody knows that Clint Barton is Hawkeye. Nobody knows that he's Ronin, So he's, sees somebody with the Ronin suit on. So he's like, he got to go find this out. So he tracks down Kate Bishop and tries to get the suit back. But when he's talking to her, the tracksuit mafia is outside the house and they attack. So he escapes the apartment. Well, they're in an apartment. The apartment catches on fire. And when the apartment catches on fire, they ended up having to leave and they leave the suit in the apartment. They couldn't go back because there's too much fire and stuff like that, which I'm guessing the suit is probably fireproof. So he wasn't worried about it burning up. They had to leave the suit and he decided he was going to come back later and get that suit. So that was basically the first episode of the show. I thought it was a pretty good episode. You basically have, you get like a brief introduction to Kate Bishop. But through the course of this, she also finds out that someone who is related to her mother and all of that kind of stuff, to her business and stuff, her business partner, she goes there and finds him dead, and he was killed with a sword. So she kind of suspects that the new fiance, which was kind of sprung on her. She didn't know about him until she kind of figured it out at this little fundraiser party that she was at, where she discovered the auction and all of that kind of stuff. That's where she kind of figured out that this guy was engaged to her mother, and she, something didn't sit right. She said something is not right about this guy. He just seems like he got something that he's hiding, and which is what caused her to start following him around and end up at the auction and everything in the first place. All right, so the second episode, basically what happens is Hawkeye, he helped Kate Bishop out. He's trying to make sure that she stays out of trouble, but he doesn't want any more to do with her. He wants to get the suit back, make sure she's safe, throw the tracksuit mafia off of her trail, and then go back to spend Christmas with his family. He got 6 days before Christmas, and he ended up sending his kids back to where their mother is, and promised his daughter that he'll be home for Christmas. So he got like 6 days to solve this little mystery. He thought it was going to take a day and he was going to be back. But what ended up happening was one of the firemen that put out the fire, when he went back to get the outfit, the Ronin outfit from the house after the fireman has put out the fire and everything, he went back to get the Ronin costume out of the house and it was missing. And after a little investigation, he realized that one of the firemen was part of some type of LARPing community and he was the one that stole the outfit and he was going to wear it to a LARPing event the next day. So he goes to the LARPing event. I'm not going to go into too much details about all of that, but it was a pretty interesting scene. He gets the outfit back, the Ronin costume back, and then he decides to go and meet with the tracksuit mafia. And this was his chance of trying to get them off the trail of Kate Bishop. He was trying to make sure she's safe. But what ended up happening is Kate Bishop thinks that Hawkeye was captured by the tracksuit mafia. So she calls herself going to help, which in turn, have both of them wrapped up and captured. And then at the end of that episode, we get introduced to the new character, which I think this new character is Echo. And Echo is a character you've seen in the previews. Some of the previews they showed her. In the comics, she is a character where she was, her father was killed by Kingpin. I'm not sure if he was killed by Kingpin or someone else, but her father was killed. Kingpin kind of raised her to be an assassin. And she is deaf, you know, so she kind of, and she has a skill similar to Taskmaster where she can imitate, like she can watch anybody's fighting style, anybody do things, and she can completely imitate that, similar to Taskmaster, you know. So I'm thinking she's going to be kind of like the villain for this series. But the thing about her and Hawkeye is that Hawkeye is also deaf. He's wearing a hearing aid. They talk about him losing his hearing or slowly losing his hearing, you know, in the first episode. Maybe that's going to be like something that's going to bring them together, you know, Echo and Hawkeye, you know, but I'm speculating, not sure what's going to happen. But yeah, she was introduced at the very end of the episode 2, and it just makes me want to watch the next episode to see what's going to happen, see how she's going to play into this. Right now, she seems like she's going to be the villain of the season, but we'll see. You know, she seemed like she's running things as far as the Tracksuit Mafia. All right, so I kind of like the show so far. You know, a lot of the shows, they kind of seem like each Disney Plus Marvel show kind of seem like I kind of have different feelings for each one. Wandavision, I kind of was like so on it, but then after the season was over with, I liked it a lot better in hindsight. Then you had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I really wanted to like, but I only liked it moderately. I thought they were hit and miss. They had some episodes that I really liked and some episodes I thought were kind of dull. Then you had Loki, which Loki was kind of the same way. Every episode I thought was pretty good, but the show overall I thought was really interesting, you know, and worth watching, but I kind of felt like it was one of those shows where I kind of felt like I was waiting for something to happen, and that thing never happened. And this show kind of feels a little more, for some reason, this show feels a little more put together in the first few episodes. It doesn't feel mashed up. And I think a lot of the other episodes were affected a lot by 2020, by what happened with COVID and all of that kind of stuff. Like, for example, I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think they actually changed the huge plot of the show because of the virus and all of that kind of stuff. And then like WandaVision, you know, you can tell towards the end, as the season went on, you could tell they made like last minute changes to the plot and to the story and stuff. And it's like a lot of that stuff you can feel when you watch the show. And so far, this one feels more like it's the most complete. Like it's the most planned out and complete show so far. Just the first 2 episodes, it feel like they had a direction and they stuck to it. You know, you never know. Maybe it'll change up as the season go on. But so far in the first 2 episodes, it kind of feel like that. You know, it feels like the first 2 episodes so far feels like an act 1 of a long movie. And it feels, you know, like a legit planned out act 1 and not one where they piece together stuff and forced in act 1, which a lot of the series to me kind of feel like that. A lot of the other Disney Plus series to me kind of feel like that, you know. Before we go, in the description, I got a link to my poll. I got a poll for the top 5 MCU movies. I list my top 5 in that poll. Go and check that out. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you disagree, go ahead and comment with your top 5. I want to see what everybody else's thoughts is. Check that out in the description, and make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more, you know, Marvel related content or any kind of content, because I talk about a lot of different types of movies and TV shows. So if you like this video, click like, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. While you're here, why don't you check out that video right there, or maybe that one right there. And while you're at it, go ahead and click that little picture of my image there and subscribe to my channel.